সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি আওয়ার ডেমোক্রেসি অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকের অনুষ্ঠানটি একটু ভিন্ন হবে, সম্পূর্ণটাই ইংরেজিতে হবে। আমি আশা করি আপনারা আমাদের সাথে থাকবেন এবং অনুষ্ঠানটি ভালো লাগবে। নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটি জাস্ট মেড হিস্ট্রি. Zohran Mamdani, a democratic socialist, a community organizer, and one of the youngest political figures to ever win the mayor's office, is now headed to New York City Hall. And the entire country is watching to see what happens next. This is one of the big parts of the discussion is going to happen today. Right after the results came in, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, repeated a threat that he has made before. He will cut funding, the federal funding for New York City, if Mamdani takes office. He said similar things, he meaning Donald Trump, when NYC, New York City, declared itself a sanctuary city in 2020. Tonight, we will look at whether that could actually happen or can happen, and what it would mean for our schools, housings, and police department. The former governor, Andrew Cuomo, he waded in with his fiery speech last night, attacking Mandari once again, and his agendas as too extreme for New York. Meanwhile, Mamdani spoke about affordable housing, policing, police reforming, and pushing the power back to working families. The reactions prove one thing: the city is divided. And the Democratic Party is clearly split. Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all of them refused to endorse Mamdani, a rare moment where national Democratic establishment set out a New York City mayoral race. So, what does this mean for South Asian and Muslim Americans who turned out in record numbers and helped deliver this win? What about the concern about Mamdani has no experience, no governing experience? Because he is outsider, it's a status, this is a weakness for him, or exact the same reason younger voters supported him? And for the first time, the Bangladeshi vote proved a major political force in New York City. Bangladeshi small business owners, Bangladeshi taxi drivers, medical workers, homeowners, they keep this city running. Now this community has political power, Bangladeshi community, especially South Asians, marginalized people, what will they demand next and what can they do next? Add to that fast-growing Indo-Caribbean population, a new generation of black voters who don't always vote the same way the older black Democrats did or do. How is this reshaping New York's entire political map? We are going to dig into all of this, the politics, the promises, and the pressure that brings right now at the City Hall. Stay with us. Joining me today, Kalita Mitra. She is an award-winning journalist, media executive, prolific commentator, and author of 2 books. At the height of the pandemic, Mitra founded 2 media companies to ensure BIPOC communities, BIPOC, are served, supported, and centered. The first, Epicenter NYC, began the newsletter helping the New Yorkers navigate the COVID, since grown into a community journalist multi-platform company. The second is URL Media, she's the CEO and founder, is growing out network of high-performing Black and Brown media organization that shares content, distributions, and revenues to increase the long-term sustainability. Mitra served as a senior vice president at CNN Digital, overseeing the national news, breaking news, programming opinion, feature teams. Her media background also spans LA Times, Quartz, The Washington Post, Newsdays, and Associated Press. Mitra was a consultant on Apple TV's morning shows, the co-producer of the documentary named 𝗖𝗓 is broke. She sits on the board of Philadelphia Inquirer, the News Media Alliance, and the American Press Institute. I also have Garry Pierre-Pierre. Welcome, Garry. And he is a media consultant and a founder of the Haitian Times, which provides quality, measured information about Haiti and its diasporas. He is a Pulitzer-prize winning multimedia journalist. He is a leading voice for Haitians and Haitian diaspora community and media. He's a former reporter of New York Times, where he owned Pulitzer-prize. Pierre-Pierre is recognized leader in media entrepreneurship and its circles. He is the co-founder and the first executive director of Center for Community Media at the City University of New York, CUNY Graduate School of Journalism in 2011. He was elected the president of New York Press Association and the first person of color to serve in that role. Garry, welcome.
Thank you, Habib.
All right. We have a lot to discuss, Mitra and Garry. So I can start either way. Let's start with Mitra. You are in the studio with me, so we're gonna start with this. There are a lot of people who are speaking about many things after Zohran Mamdani won New York City mayoral election, and what is next for him? What's next for New York City? Trump said he's going to cut the federal funding if he wins, which he did. But I'm going to go back to you first with Andrew Cuomo's speech and your reaction after his conceding speech. What do you make out of it?
So what we've seen, first of all, it's wonderful to be here, Habib. I feel like you and I have been through a lot over the last 5 years.
Yeah, of course we did.
This is a bit of a full circle moment because I don't know if you remember. I think you'll remember.
I do remember.
We moderated a debate together in Jackson Heights, which led to the first Indian American elected in New York City, 𝗖𝗓 𝗧𝗕𝗓.
Yes.
And now here we are about 4 years later, and we have an Indian American mayor. I mean, so there's a full circle moment of going from kind of Jackson Heights to this city stage, which we all know. And Garry, I know you're in the Midwest right now, but you're a former New Yorker, always a New Yorker. And Habib, I know you're a real New Yorker. Like, we really do see ourselves as, different from the rest of the world,
That's
right?
correct.
And so what do I make of Andrew Cuomo? I mean, I think just when you think he's going away, he's not going away, right? And so this was a campaign where it was clearly staged as his comeback. You would think after his performance in the primary, which was pretty definitive, abysmal, but definitive, right? And then his concession speech back then was, like 4 words, meaning it was just not a moment.
A nothing concession speech.
Right. So that's where we were, what we're coming out of. Correct. To this moment where last night, if the Democrats and even, some of Wall Street want business to continue as usual, right, which was a lot of the sentiment that we've been seeing, there is a system of how elections go down, right? Andrew Cuomo is supposed to call Zohran Mamdani, congratulate him. He's supposed to give a speech, and then comes a victory speech. You all want normal? There's a sequence of events for normal.
Right.
That's not what we're getting.
That's not what we got. Yes, correct. Right. And I was listening to him. He mentioned 2 things that really stood out to me. He's an educated guy. His father was a governor. He was a governor. He still says his name wrong.
Oh, yeah. So it's interesting, Habib. How many people, actually, I was going to say how many people have mispronounced your name throughout your time in the U.S.
But, that's okay. I'm nobody. I'm not mayor of New York City.
I mean,
listen, after going through the primaries and debates and all this, you still name the guy wrong. That's not normal.
So one commentator said it's not mispronunciation, it's dispronunciation, meaning he is trying to diss him and disrespect him in the process of mispronouncing his name.
And then again, he mentioned his name 5 minutes into his speech. 5 minutes into his speech. That's not normal either. Do you think?
I mean, this is where I'm saying I don't think anything's been normal about this process, right? And so,
That's
you know,
true. That's very
it's
true.
just, it's interesting to see politicians that are trying to cling to processes and normal ways of doing things when
Correct.
the reason we're seeing this upending and, you know, you mentioned redrawing the political map is because the people don't want politics as normal.
Well, I'm going to come back to you because there's some unanswered question. I think that we can dig into it. But let's go to Garry. Garry, you watched Zohran Mamdani and he gave his speech. What do you make out of it? I thought it was a bit different from his usual way he comes on stage and talks. I thought it was a bit forceful. Do you?
Absolutely. And it was interesting that he addressed Donald Trump directly. And he said, although I want to work with you, but also if you're going to bring the fight to New York City, we're ready to fight. That's the message that I heard last night. And frankly, I'm a bit baffled about the freak out about Mamdani. He's been in the assembly for about 4 years or so now. I mean, this whole social democrat just scares America. And the reality is America is a socialist society. When you think about it, there's a good amount of socialism as part of this society. When you think about Social Security, SNAP benefits, all of that. So that's socialism. But when it comes to someone that they're uncomfortable with, and there's a problem with it, and I think we need to step back and look at where we are, because I've been reading some pretty disturbing things about millionaires and billionaires moving out of New York because of this, and this is really unfortunate.
Yeah. So you think so you agree with me that it was a little bit forceful than he could have been, right? And then he also, instead of aligning them, it was a missed opportunity, you think?
Well, I mean, I think what he's trying to do is play Trump, meet him where he's at. Because Trump doesn't understand these subtleties anymore. We've seen it.
Yeah.
He's a norm-busting person, and he takes pride in that. And I think what Mamdani is saying is like, okay, I'm going to meet you, bully, where you are, and we're just going to go at it. And I don't know if he was antagonizing the New York City or New York State or other Americans. I think his focus is on Donald Trump. And,
right.
And then once you put it that way, then you understand his tone.
Right. Now, you mentioned somewhere in your when you started that there is a rift in Democratic Party, and last night Democrats had a clean sweep, if you will, right? Unprecedented win for them across the board, and I think that's a wake-up call for Republicans, especially Donald Trump, and that their method is not working, and the people are tired of it. Some say that it's not the Democrats, it's the people who actually got energized because of what Trump administration is doing. And also the younger people want to see some change. So there is a dilemma in Democratic Party. Do you agree with that? If that is, how do you see that? Because we know Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, none of them endorsed Zohran Mamdani, but it didn't matter. But do they have their own soul searching at the same time?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a party that's grappling with a generational shift. You see that the energy is lacking, and it's time for a new generation. The Democratic Party, there shouldn't be a dilemma. There should be unity around Democrats, because Donald Trump is a unique threat to American society. And so at this moment, the Democratic Party should be at its strongest, and yet it's grappling with sort of like the will of its young and next generation of leaders who obviously have embraced the progressive and people like Mandari. And New York is a bellwether for the Democratic Party. And you need to start looking at it, trying to understand it and see how they could infuse that energy throughout the party.
Yeah, I totally agree that American Constitution and the country, United States, is facing a unique challenge from the Trump administration and Trump himself, who's undermining the Constitution, who's undermining his other people's authority, who's undermining the justice system, who's undermining the people's will, and bring in chaos. And then it's like a coin toss. Today you have a tariff, tomorrow you don't have a tariff. Today you have this ICE raid somewhere in Chicago, and tomorrow could be in New York City. So it's like a really coin toss kind of thing. You have no idea. At the same time, he's breaking rules and regulations and enriching his own self and his family. So this is a unique challenge. I totally agree with you. I'm going to come back to you because I have more question from a different angle, Garry. But Mitra, I'm going to come back to you. I want to show you a video clip, especially from Bangladeshi American communities. They voted a huge number, big numbers. We're going to go back to Garry for Haitian community also, because that's the beat of the discussion for tonight, right? But let's take a look at this, and then we see what we make out of it, right? Can we আমরা কি ভিডিওটা দেখতে পারি?
আমার ফার্স্ট টাইম আমেরিকাতে ভোট দেওয়া।
খুশি লাগছে, ভালো লাগছে ভোট দিতে।
2000 সালে এখানে আসছে, সেই থেকে পর্যন্ত একটা ভোট আমি মিস করিনি, যখন যে ভোট আসছে আর কি। এমনকি আজকে আমি কাজে যাই না ভোটের জন্য।
ভোট দিয়ে আসলাম, কোনো ঝামেলা না, এখন পর্যন্ত প্রচুর লোক আছে ভিতরে, বাট এত বিজি নাই, মানুষ সবাই সুশৃঙ্খল ভাবে লানা দাঁড়ায় ভোট দিচ্ছে। নিজের ভোট নিজেই দিতে পারতেছেন, কোনো ধরনের কোনো হয়রানির কোনো সুযোগ নেই।
My name is 𝗖𝗎ike heç𝗧𝗕𝗡𝗏. I'm currently a nursing student and I live here in Mandari. Today in particular because I actually usually never vote, like especially when it comes to the presidents, because I kind of lost faith in a sense. But I think like I thought that like it's actually important. Even one vote can make a big difference. And I was planning on doing early voting, but I just didn't have time. But so today I squeezed in all the time I can because today is the last day. So I felt very motivated because for once I feel like there's like hope for the city.
We tend to get ostracized in our communities, and so it's important that Bengali people get their vote out, and so they feel like they have power in their vote.
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied. I think every vote counts.
Okay, so we saw from every walks of life.
I'm honored. I got footage on TVN 24. Thank you, Habib.
Thank you. So you saw it's from every walks of life. You have this young girl who probably recently came here. You have this two young girls who are college-going girls, and you have the older gentleman, and then middle-aged 30, 40 people, and then you have Bangladeshi people actually doing throwing slogans in Jackson Heights, the heart of little Bangladesh, right? So what does all this tell you? First of all, the second question that I want to ask, what does it really mean for the Muslim community? The Muslim community is Bangladeshi, a huge number here, but you have the Pakistanis, you have the Indians, and South Asian in general.
Yeah. So I have been writing about the South Asian community pretty much my whole career, about 30 years. You mentioned I'd written books. My father came to Jackson Heights in 1971, and that's, a very common trajectory for Indian immigrants to New York City, starting in Jackson Heights, then moved to Long Island. That might sound familiar, Habib, but
of course.
Moving to New York City, moving to the suburbs. They're now in New Jersey. And it's a common kind of Indian trajectory, as well as a common trajectory for Bangladeshis. Pakistanis, we've seen, similar. What I have to hand it off to the Bangladeshis of New York City is that they have made themselves into a political force that I think the Indians and Pakistanis that came before them were never able to do. And so the last few years, even before the rise of Zoran Mamdani, we saw politicians needing Bangladeshi voters, and as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, Indo-Caribbean voters, as a pretty ascendant population. In some cases, new citizens, but also the numbers kind of made them a critical voting bloc in New York in a way that the Indian and Pakistani populations really never got to that critical mass. And so I think you and I were just talking, if I'm not mistaken, there's hundreds of thousands of Bangladeshis in New York City. I mean, by some estimates, 300K to 400K,
yeah,
right?
I would say so. Yeah.
So what I think we saw was this constituency really assert their power. I think we've seen this power over the last few years, not just for Muslim candidates, but the fact that they could energize around a Muslim candidate. And then I think in 𝗔𝗯ance mamdani, you have, kind of a quintessential intersectional candidate, right? What do I mean by that? He was born in Uganda. His mother is Hindu, his father is Muslim. He identifies as a practicing Muslim. But as a result of his identity, he went not just to mosques and, I have friends in the Sunni community who claim him. I have friends in the Shia community who claim him. And so this idea of claiming him as their own in gurudwaras and, Sikh houses of worship.
And Hindu temples too.
Yeah. So if you think about kind of how we associate politicians, doing what they do, it's historically been in churches on Sunday. So I think while we saw, certainly white and mainstream politicians and other politicians go to, other houses of worship, I think in Mamdani, we saw somebody who is of these communities, right? That translated into the video that you just saw was people who not just identify with it, but then feel mobilized to do something about it. And that is, I was just telling you, I met someone this morning, a Pakistani American. He's probably my age, late 40s, early 50s, has never voted in his whole life. His whole life. He said, I had no reason to vote in Pakistan. Politicians there are corrupt. Again, this is something all of us will identify with from, our kind of our home countries. I didn't feel the need to vote in New York elections, general elections before. This was the first time I voted. So that's the narrative of when we say redrawing the political map, that type of sentiment is fueling it. And I think Bangladeshis have been, kind of at the center of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is also the way you said, he is loved by all these people. He's not necessarily a Muslim, not necessarily a Hindu, not necessarily Shia, not necessarily Sunni, but all of them claiming him. That's not easy to do.
Right.
That's a very difficult thing. And anybody who can do it, success is guaranteed.
Yeah. What do you think of his Bengali? Do you think he spoke well?
No. No.
Because he did. I mean, I'm ready.
No.
Like for him, you don't think so? It was. He tried.
It's like your Bengali.
Oh
right?
gosh.
Right. So
right?
it's a little bit better than them.
Okay.
I'm fluent in multiple languages, right? It's like Hindi and Urdu and Arabic.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that he speaks Hindi. I had no idea, right?
Yeah.
He came here when he was 7, so you really can't tell if he does. But when I heard him, it's like, oh my God, I missed it. I could have just had a conversation with him in Hindi.
Yeah.
But, next time. But that all this point you just made, you saw that girl, the college-going girl, she said, I usually don't vote, and I felt like to vote today.
Yeah.
Right? And the Pakistani man that you saw on an elevator, right? He said, I never vote. I'm 48 plus years old, but I felt like to vote. Something is compelling them to vote. Is it the system? Is it the Donald Trump? Is it the marginalized people are under huge pressure? What do you think it is?
I think it is dissatisfaction with our status quo. I think that has a lot to do with it. But I also think it would be a mistake for us to think about the Democratic sweep that you just mentioned and say, oh, these people are motivated by the Democratic Party. I think we need to get real about what people are voting for. And the fact that in the sweep, we had 2 female candidates and 1 South Asian Muslim candidate in New York City also kind of makes the case for the identity politics that, everyone who says, oh, diversity's over and identity politics, we're so sick of it. Well, guess what? People identify with people who they identify with, right?
Yeah,
if they see themselves, they might actually do something about it. So I think there is the appeal. And then the other thing I'll just mention, beyond identity, people have recall on the issues that 𝗔𝗯ance mamdani ran on. Free buses, childcare for all. Affordability, freeze the rent.
Yeah.
Those are very tangible platforms.
Donald Trump won the election based on those. You know that, right?
I don't think there's dissimilar campaigning going on.
No. I'm not saying this.
By the way, I think the economics that they're appealing to are also
different.
very well. Yeah, I mean,
are different. Are very different. You are appealing to the ultra rich, right?
Although he has poor
yeah,
voters too. I was going to
well,
say
he fooled the poor voters. I mean, Gary, would you disagree with me or? And it's not a
who's
joke.
right? Gary, who's right?
Both of you are right.
I knew it. I mean, nobody can deny this. But Gary, I'm coming back to you because we're gonna run off to a different topic altogether. Many say that Mamdani's inexperience of governing will be a big issue. That's one question. What do you think of it or make out of it? And just opposite of it, he's anti-establishment, and the younger voters who voted him liked it, right? And that's one of the reasons they voted him. So there's a paradigm going on, right? What do you make out of the first question and the second, conflicting standing?
Well, I think first of all, you run a campaign on sets of ideas,
right?
And you govern a set of realities. And I think what we have to look beyond sort of like this lack of experience narrative is that who has he chosen to be in his administration?
Correct.
That's very important. And I think from what I've seen, from what I know, he will get highly competent people who want to help him move forward. In many ways, listening to you and Mitra talking about the rise of the South Asian, in particular the Bangladeshi, this is, to me, a small moment for you where African American was in 2008 with Obama.
Correct.
So there's a lot. I'm seeing this, and this is why people are motivated, because this is making history. This is something that you never thought you've seen.
Right.
The biggest and most important city in America, if not the world, you have one of us who is the mayor. That's heady stuff. So that's really a moment that you will always remember in your life for that community. And so, yeah, I do understand it. Yes.
Yeah. So. So inexperience it can be overcome. What you're saying, it depends on how you're surrounding yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And he is intellectually solid.
Yeah.
And he knows what the city needs, and I think he can deliver on his promises.
Yeah. Listen, we know the old guards. We saw Eric Adams. We have Cuomo as a governor, and we know what happened. So the excuse that people make out of saying inexperience, it's a weakness, therefore you're bound to fail, right? So that's in itself, I think it's not a valid argument.
Well, it's also why he won. Meaning,
exactly.
Because the reason people were motivated is because he is 34 years old.
Right.
And everyone who says, oh, he's never run a team more than 5 people,
And so what?
I think that's why there's an appeal, right? People want someone outside. I mean, he's not outside the system. He has been in the New York Assembly.
Not as insider establishment as we know.
Right.
But
his inexperience is a part of his appeal.
Correct.
That, and I would say, we haven't really talked about kind of him on social media, but he comes off as pretty vulnerable. He talked about how personally he's connecting, but I think...
what's funny about this?
Yeah.
The social media presence. Gary, catch us if we are wrong. I think a lot of his social media, his mother is a director, that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was really, when I was writing for today's script, right, I was actually paying attention. Why does his social media presence look so good? But it has something that I couldn't catch in the beginning. I was able to decipher it last night.
And what is it?
Most of his bright colors are coming from his mother's filmmaking ideas. If you look at Mississippi Masala, right?
Yeah.
Those movies, coloring scheme in his ads. if you look how
That's
they
interesting.
it's
Yeah.
look
Like-
at how they
it's
wrote
like logos
Zohran
of
with a
the- yeah,
yellow,
yeah,
but
yeah.
kind of like a deeming yellow,
Yeah.
right?
We have the same colors at Epicenter, so
Right.
I have been like, oh gosh,
So
we.
I
you know,
think his mother's experience. I think his mother was directing those clips. I think I'm not 100%
I think
sure.
well, there is
It's
something about
possibility.
like I think he has a focus on visuals,
Right,
in a
right.
way that many
The others
candidates don't have
Correct.
that. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to stay with you. Now that you just talked about the voting power of Bangladeshi Americans or Bangladeshi Muslim Americans, right? Now that you know that Bangladeshis are a strong voting bloc or power, especially in Queens, in New York City elections, what do they do with this now? Where can they go? Especially the Bangladeshi community. They make the city run. They are in Dunkin' Donuts. They are Uber driver. They are the restaurant owners. They are the food vending. The Bangladeshi community running the city in a way. What do they do now? What's their next step?
I mean, I hope that there are Bangladeshis on the transition team, right? I imagine there will be because the South Asian organizations, including, 𝗔𝗯cie 𝗧𝗕𝗡𝗏, of course, the Bangladeshi city councilwoman in Brooklyn, have been pretty key to this campaign. So my suspicion is that there will be Bangladeshis involved in the transition team and ultimately in his administration. I feel like that's kind of the least you could expect, right? As a result of turning out for eventually Mayor Mamdani. I think the other part is that, and you and I have talked about this, the number of Bangladeshis who run for city office is actually quite high.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's people running against each other, and so they cancel the vote out. And so I guess
we saw that happening last time in the city council election. Remember?
Absolutely. And so, you and I have talked about this.
When was it? 2021 or 2022?
It was 21.
Yeah.
And so I guess I wonder politically who is organizing, and I hate to say who is organizing you all as though your community is a monolith. But some aspect of is there some organization to be done?
They're independently deciding to run.
Right.
So what would be your advice if you want to show your power and as a voting bloc, bloc?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're seeing it. I feel like I don't want to kind of dictate to this community what should be done, but I marvel at the political organization. I think entering both South Asian and Asian organizations at all levels feels really important. I also think we have a number of Asian organizations that say they're Asian, but with the force that Bangladeshis have just shown in New York City, the major Asian organizations should also make sure that they are representing your community, right?
Yeah.
They get funding, they get resources. There's a lot of access to power that they represent.
Yeah. So what you're saying is there is a real power in Bangladeshi voting bloc. They just yet haven't figured out how to harness that power. Is that correct?
I feel like
there are other communities who can learn from these voting blocks.
I think that's right. I mean, I was actually going to say what I've noticed I was going to ask about the Haitian community, and I've noticed this, and I've said this to Garry. The Haitians show up everywhere. They're presidents of universities, they're CEOs of companies. And you don't know they're Haitian necessarily, and then you start talking.
They don't identify them as.
So I don't know if there's something to learn from those communities, and also in Brooklyn, I think you're, Garry. What is he? The party leader in Brooklyn? I don't even know, but
the Brooklyn Democratic Party leader.
Yeah. How did you all penetrate these upper echelons of politics? And you're a smaller community, I think.
Yes, we're much smaller, but we've been here for in large numbers for 40 years now. And so over the years, a lot of alliances were made with Jewish community largely in central Brooklyn. And so if you look at the support that Councilwoman Farrah Lewis has gotten in Midwood and other parts of her district, and it's out of an alliance with the Jewish community.
So Garry, I'm staying with you. The Indo-Caribbean community, I would say the new black voters in the community, right? What does it really mean, generally speaking, but in terms of voting, what does it really mean, and how they're different from the black Americans in terms of voting and their way of thinking?
Well, I mean, again, we don't want to speak in the monolithic.
Right. Generally, that's why I said generally speaking.
But I think, Caribbean folks in general tend to be socially a bit more conservative, but politically liberal in a New York political.
I agree. Please go on.
Yeah. So therefore, ultimately, we vote with the African American community and the other, because New York is a very solidly blue. You have different shades of it, but it's still blue nevertheless.
Correct.
And the differences are really slim and nuanced.
Right. I totally agree. So I hear that, just like you said, they are conservative, but they're liberal when it comes to elections and all these things. Yeah. But I do see what I hear, that I do see a difference how the black folks vote in the elections and how Haitians do. It's like in a way the Bangladeshi Americans do. They pick the one they want, and they pick the one they align with, and they think he is the right person.
Well, I mean, perfect example, Mandari. I mean, the Haitians were one of the biggest and earliest supporters.
There you go.
And we really felt that he was authentic. He spoke to us. He understood us. He was an immigrant like us, and it was not lost in translation. We were speaking the same language, and the communications was real and authentic. And so that's what we did connect with him from the beginning.
Right. Let me stay with you for one more question. Donald Trump threatened to cut the federal funding if Mamdani wins. Now he won, right? So you were a reporter for New York Times. So from a broader view, from your perspective, legally, politically, threat is one thing. Can a president actually do that? And if that, I was looking at data, and 8% of the funding of New York City comes from the federal funding, which is a huge number. Remember, New York City's budget is a budget of Ukraine or South Korea. GDP, I mean, it's huge. These are advanced countries, right? So, two questions to you. Can a president do that? Number one. Number two, if that happens, so can he do that? Is it just a rhetoric? Or if he goes that route, what would be a path for Mamdani to make sure the New Yorkers are safe in terms of budgeting?
Well, I mean, yes, he can. I mean, he's done things like that. But yes, there is a recourse. Obviously, New York City will sue him and get an injunction to stop that from happening. So Donald Trump is unhinged. I mean, he has been making
that's an understatement.
Illegal executive orders after another, and so expect anything. I mean, I think the interesting thing, Habib, is that he keeps saying he wants to cut federal grants from New York City.
Correct.
But I don't know how many of your viewers know that New York sends more money to Washington than it receives from Washington.
I mean, you and I, we know.
Yeah. So what if then Mayor Mamdani decides that he's not going to send that money to Washington? He's keeping it.
Correct.
I think that's such a good point, that we're so interdependent.
Yeah.
With the uncertainty that Donald Trump has introduced to the economy over and over, the tariffs, the government shutdown.
Correct.
I mean, you just sort of look at this. And by the way, New York has already seen federal funding cut this year from DOGE and health funding. I mean, so we already have a track record of pain.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is there's a threat of more pain.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
That being said, I think what Garry's saying is also really important, that they need our economy. And right now, and I think Mamdani has said this, our tourism dollars are down. obviously Wall Street's been reacting to all of this uncertainty.
Correct.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about like structural changes in the economy, like AI and technology, and that stuff's always going to happen. Now we're introducing elements of uncertainty.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. To Gary's point, I was looking at a stat of Kentucky, Mitch McConnell's state. Every dollar they send it to the federal government, they receive $2.04. So that's Mitch McConnell's state. Okay. And if somebody cuts their funding, it will be very detrimental for their state, right? This is just one example. On the contrary, we have New York City, California. Their economy is huge, and they send tons of dollars back to state, the Washington. So I'm not sure what the hell is it thinking. I mean, you're laughing, but it is.
Well, there was an Asian American exit poll on this. It's interesting you say this. 20% of Asian Americans who voted for Donald Trump switched to mamdani.
Right.
While some of it might be propelled by the identity politics that we all just said, I think a lot of it is also this issue, the economics of it.
Correct.
I think
you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I was listening to Cuomo's speech a day or two before on live television, right? And then he was talking about he's against anti-Semitism, anti-Islamic phobia. A day before he was, his statement was Islamophobic, right? And then he also said he's against bullies against Italian families.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I found that funny.
Well, do you know that the Italians were one of the sort of like indentured servants in New York, in terms of that they went through a lot of racism in the city. So they kind of feel that. I mean, I know now.
Tell me something new. We're gonna run out of time. We were just talking about 1929's playbook, right?
I thought Gary was leading you down this road.
I know.
You love history, so.
On a different day, Gary, I'm telling you, and Mitra, we will have a different discussion. But before we are, towards the end of our program, what do you make out of one thing that you saw, the split in Democratic Party? The top leaders did not endorse. What does that tell about the Democratic Party itself? And what message they are actually sending to the new generation voters? Gary.
Well, I think first of all, it shows you that endorsement doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the day, it's about the candidate.
I agree.
And what they're showing is that they're out of step with the future. And hence, I think that's a good thing, because the old guard has gotten to this point and they can no longer continue. We need change. If they love this country, we need to see a shift. Unfortunately, this is what happened last year in the presidential elections, when somebody, as much as I admire Joe Biden, but at the end of the day, he stuck around a little bit too long, and unfortunately, here we are.
Yeah, he was walking mommy. I mean, to be honest with you, he looked like a frozen man. I agree with you. He stuck it out too long. He should have just gave Kamala Harris a fair chance. I don't think he did. It's just my 2 cents, but we'll talk in future more about these things in coming days. There are you got 30 seconds. Mamdani has a lot of work cut out for him. The housing, policing, education, the younger voters and their expectation. What would you tell the people who voted him that it takes time? Have patience? What would you end with that?
I mean, I think all of us play a role in democracy beyond voting. And so I would say that the need to get involved is an imperative like never before, including with people you disagree with. One of the things that I'm grateful for is that people have emailed me and said, Epicenter's coverage of this, we see how you all are excited about a South Asian candidate, but we feel, and then insert kind of the feelings of alienation, and I'm not sure if he's, this and that. You all know that. So I think getting involved is paramount. And I think for the Bangladeshi community, my hope, I'll just reiterate, I hope you all are at the table in the administration on the transition team. I think that your community turned up, and you have the right to demand that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. What I'm going to tell everybody before I leave and say goodbye to all of us and the viewers is this. Last night, if anything was proven last night, was the democracy was there. It's a win for democracy. It was a win for democracy. It was a win for marginalized people. And the marginalized people showed one thing, that you may have PAC's money, you may have billionaires backing, and you may have a bully president backing you. But at the end of the day, it's people who has the power to choose. And if you don't listen to them, you are going to end up where you should end up. And people will always win. There will be temporarily setback, but at the end of the day, it's the people who gets to decide. Good night.
TBN 24 টেলিভিশন দেখতে আজই কল করুন 7187776556 লগ ইন করুন www.totalcableBD.com।
নিউ ইয়র্ক থেকে সম্প্রচারিত TBN 24 টেলিভিশন বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর।